Did you see that when DB came back and played for us, that they got mad that our fan base was booing her?
I don't believe in booing former players unless they left on like some you type shit.
Like DB. Because like DB was one of my vets when I was in Phoenix. And then we gathered here into Indiana. And like it was kind of a surprise that she was signed to Indiana anyway. And so we'll take her in a heartbeat. Like she's a Hall of Famer. She's a hell of a basketball player, can score from anywhere on the court.
Did you see that when DB came back and played for us that they got mad that our fan base was booing her? I don't believe in booing former players unless they left unlike some you type, __. Sophie Cunningham just dropped some juicy details on her podcast that nobody saw coming. The Indiana Fever guard, who played alongside Dana Bonner in both Phoenix and Indiana, broke her silence about why Bonner really quit on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever mid-season. And let me tell you, what she said about Bonner's unprofessional exit is going to make your jaw drop. Cunningham didn't hold back when she exposed how Bonner handled her departure, calling out her behavior openly. The tea she spilled about what really went down behind the scenes changes everything we thought we knew about this drama. Drop a good riddance down in the comments below if you agree with Sophie about Bonner's distasteful exit. Let's go. I like Deep cause like Debbie was one of my vets when I was in Phoenix and then we gathered here into Indiana and like it was kind of a surprise that she was signed to Indiana anyway and so we'll take her in a heartbeat like she's a Hall of Famer. She's a hell of a basketball player. Can score from anywhere on the court. When Dana Bonner signed with the Indiana Fever, everyone thought they were witnessing the perfect addition to the team. This wasn't just any veteran pickup. Bonner came with serious credentials and the kind of experience that championship teams are built around. The signing caught everyone by surprise, but in the best possible way. Fever fans finally had reason to believe their young superstar would have the veteran leadership she desperately needed. I'm sure there were plenty of teams going for your services, Dana. Why was this the right opportunity for you? I just feel like it was the location for one. My kids are literally right up the road and I've spent a lot of time away from them. So, that and the core that they have here now is just kind of want to fit in and be another piece to the puzzle and hopefully bring the energy dynamic and take us to a different level in the playoffs. The press conferences told the whole story, or so we thought. Bonner stood at that podium saying all the right things about being excited to play with Clark and contribute to the team's success. She painted herself as the missing piece, ready to mentor the sophomore sensation while providing crucial scoring punch. Sophie Cunningham, who knew Bonner from Phoenix, even hyped her up as a Hall of Famer and a hell of a basketball player, can score from anywhere on the court. Everything looked picture perfect on paper. Caitlin Clark herself bought into the hype, noting that Bonner had the strongest voice in the locker room. You could see the excitement in Clark's eyes during those early team interactions. The Fever organization was thrilled. Fans were pumped. This veteran addition was supposed to elevate everything about their championship aspirations. You know, DB is somebody that, he's Hall of Famer, like a legend. Not only a good basketball player, a great person, a great leader. The strongest voice in our locker room is hers. Then the game started. Bonner's actual performance told a completely different story than those glowing press conferences. Over 9 games, she managed just 7.1 points per game with shooting numbers that made everyone wonder if they were watching the same player they'd signed. Her 3.8 rebounds and 1.6 assists per game weren't just underwhelming, they were downright disappointing for someone with her reputation. But the numbers only told part of the story. What really stood out was how disinterested Bonner looked on the court. She moved like someone who didn't want to be there. Fans started scratching their heads. Teammates began exchanging glances. The coaching staff found themselves in an impossible position. Booner, don't let the door hit you. Where the good Lord split you. What's a C? You wouldn't want to be the well, I don't want to come off the bench is not enough, is not a personal issue, I don't like my role. The situation reached a breaking point when coach Stephanie White made the difficult decision to bench Bonner. Think about that for a second, benching a supposed veteran leader just weeks into the season. The awkwardness in the locker room became impossible to ignore. Fans who had bought into the hype felt confused and betrayed. Players who expected leadership got silence instead. This benching should have been a wake-up call, a moment for Bonner to step up and prove her worth. Instead, it marked the beginning of something much worse than poor shooting percentages or lackluster defense. The woman who promised to be Clark's veteran guide was about to reveal her true character in ways that would shock everyone who believed in her public persona. Her minutes had significantly dropped from last year. Well, in turn, if her minutes drop, a lot of her production numbers that she can see and the rest of the league can see also dropped with it. Look, she's just like Natasha Howard. She looks old on the court. Alright, not trying to be, I'm not, this is not ageism. She looks like an older athlete. Alright. She looks slower on the court and the team has been lacking energy. It's been a serious problem. Seriously, long overdue. Let her go to the place where she feels she would be the best. Being benched was embarrassing enough, but what happened next turned Dana Bonner from a disappointing player into a complete mystery. One day she was sitting on the bench barely playing, and the next day she was just gone. No explanation, no goodbye. The Indiana Fever started listing her absences as personal reasons, which is basically sports speak for we have no idea what's going on either. He came over here. She signed a max contract. She knew Phoenix didn't have a bread. She got 80 here and went and got the rest over there. I think it's trash. I wouldn't do anything differently, man. You took 80 grand from the Indiana Fever. You could have just signed. Like that's one of the things, like I don't understand why you take these interviews. I don't understand why someone would take an interview and say that when the reality is that all you did was took a whole bunch of money from a team to not show up. You refused to show up. The timeline of Bonner's disappearing act reads like a bad soap opera. Games came and went with fans scanning the bench wondering where she was. The team kept giving those vague updates about personal reasons, but nobody was buying it. You could see the confusion in Coach Stephanie White's face during press conferences when reporters asked about Bonner's status. Even she didn't seem to have real answers. You refused to show up to work while receiving money while taking payment. You refused to show up and do the job. And let's be clear, you wasn't even good while you was here. You were shooting threes in the side of the backboard. But this is definitely going to be a part of her history, man, because the new wave is taking over. These new fans are watching. So, at the end of the day, yeah, it's going to be a part of her history, unfortunately. Man, this whole situation put the Fever in an impossible position. The worst part was watching teammates try to answer questions they couldn't answer. Reporters kept asking about Bonner's timeline for return, and players like Caitlin Clark had to give those awkward diplomatic responses that fooled nobody. You could tell they were frustrated, but trying to stay professional. Clark had been counting on veteran leadership and instead she got radio silence. This is Dana Bonner. I wouldn't do anything differently. I think my journey is my journey. I'm going to accept that. It carried me to where I am now in Phoenix. And it happened that way for a reason. It didn't happen that way for a reason. You forced yourself out of Indiana, Dana. Then the pieces started falling into place. Rumors began floating that Bonner wasn't coming back at all. The personal reasons excuse was wearing thin, especially when weeks turned into a month. Players started talking differently in interviews, using past tense when discussing her contributions. The writing was on the wall. The moment everyone realized Bonner had essentially quit came when news broke that she wanted to sign with the Phoenix Mercury, not returning to Phoenix after the season, joining them immediately mid-season while still technically under contract with Indiana. The audacity was breathtaking. Her personal reasons weren't family issues or health problems. She was just unhappy and wanted out. I just don't understand this. I don't understand why Dana Bonner is taking these interviews at this point in time because I'm like, look, you're in Phoenix. You've got what you wanted. You've got what everyone expected you wanted all along. Everything's gone your way. Indiana haters are going to love you because you screwed over the Fever. They're going to love you because you screwed over the Fever. Phoenix Mercury fans are going to love you. Rival fans are going to love you because you basically screwed over to Fever. Fever fans are going to hate you because you screwed over to Fever. This abandonment hit the locker room harder than any losing streak could. Caitlin Clark had publicly praised Bonner's leadership and voice in the locker room, only to discover that voice belonged to someone who would ghost her teammates without warning. The rookie who needed veteran guidance got a masterclass in unprofessionalism instead. Bonner's move to Phoenix made everything crystal clear. Those mysterious absences and personal reasons were really just code for I don't want to be here anymore. She left her teammates scrambling to fill the void while she pursued greener pastures. And what Sophie Cunningham revealed.